Well, hello, and welcome back to that thing we like to call Curlis Mania, where we talk all things pop, rock, and prog. And it's a good day. It's a really good day because we got returning to the channel, my friend Mr. Trannon Goble. Trannon, how are you? What's going on?
I'm doing well, doing well. Glad to be back. Glad to be talking some Pink Floyd today.
Oh, there's certain people that you think of for certain bands, and Pink Floyd, I always think of Trannon because we're just both of us just really love Pink Floyd, and there's certain people that you just know have that passion for the band, and it's just fun to talk about the band with them. So
Oh, I love it. I
yeah,
agree 100%. Yeah.
yeah. So we were just saying before we hit record, it's been a minute since we've done anything together. So it's great to be back, the dynamic duo, and it's great to be talking about a huge record for Pink Floyd.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, this is a massive. This is going to be tough. Like there's so much to talk about with the wall, right? There's so
Mhm.
much. It's like almost like where do we start?
Yeah, really.
You
I
know?
don't I guess you can just ask questions. I'll talk or I'll ask and you can talk or however you want to do it. It's your
Yeah.
show.
Well, let's start with the band dynamics that were going into this record because
Okay.
it's kind of important. In things, Pink Floyd struggled for a long time, right? And then they hit it huge with Dark Side of the Moon in 1973.
Great.
After that, things slowly morphed, things changed because suddenly they had made it. They were this huge band, right?
Right.
And they were just getting bigger and bigger all the time. And every album, like Wish You Were Here, or Animals, they started playing stadiums in the United States. I mean, they were making tons of money. They were rich by this point. And they were a very popular band still. They were just and they would put on these great shows that would blow people's minds, with Animals and Wish You Were Here and all these things, and the visuals as well. And things just changed. Between the band members, things started to change, right? And for example, one thing in particular was Roger Waters. He became more dominant with every record that was made. Is this your take on things?
It is. I think he definitely grasped, I guess, the stern of the ship, especially around animals.
Yes.
And I mean, he had always been sort of the lead songwriter. I guess from the time of, I would go all the way back to Metal into Dark Side of the Moon, but there was still sort of the band dynamic there. They still felt like a band, even up to Dark Side of the Moon. Even I would say into Wish You Were Here, they still sort of felt like a band. But
Mhm.
then when he started gradually increasing his power, and ultimately he did take over the band all the way. The final cut is basically a Roger Waters solo album. He fired, Richard Wright. Uh, was it during the Wall or before the Wall was released?
It was during the wall. It was the end, the last part of the wall. He fired Rick Wright.
That's right, because
Yeah.
he was a paid musician that went on tour with them, and so he was the only one that make any money from the Wall. That's sort
Yes.
of poetic justice
That's
there.
what they say.
Yeah, but yeah, I think Rogers gradually, but to sort of play devil's advocate here, David Gilmour did admit that the band were kind of lazy, during that time, and
Hmm.
they wanted Roger to step up and do it. So he did, and I think he enjoyed it.
Hmm.
But at the same time, when you've got a band, and I used to be in a band, not to compare to Pink Floyd, but you've got one person who has that sort of dominant personality.
Hmm.
So they tend to take over, you
Yeah.
know. So I think that's what happened with Floyd. And I think, after the Wall and after the final cut, Roger probably thought he could do all this on his own. And that's why he, you know, dissolved the band. But it didn't dissolve, as we know.
No, right. As we know, it continued. And that's a whole nother story. However, coming up to the wall, both David Gilmour and Rick Wright had done solo records.
Correct.
Yeah, so David Gilmour's self-titled record from 78 and Wet Dream from 78. And I think that kind of pissed off Roger a little bit. However, as you said, they were used to him steering the ship, as you said, which is a perfect analogy. They were used to him being the captain and steering it. And so, and they
Correct.
kind of became like, okay, Roger, you we're used to you doing this. So we're just going to wait for you to tell us what we're doing next, kind of thing. And
Yeah.
so while they were off making their solo records, which I think is interesting that they both made solo records pretty quickly, he was by himself hanging out writing this two different song cycles, which one became The Wall and one became Pros and Cons of
Pros
Hitchhiking.
and cons. Yep.
And from what I understand, he presented both of them to the band.
And the band said The Wall, like
Yes.
immediately.
Yes, they were like, no, that one for sure.
Yeah.
Um,
Which I think was the correct decision.
yes, yes. I
No, but with when you were talking about the two solo albums, I think you can kind of hear a little bit of Animals on David Gilmour's solo album.
for sure,
It,
for sure.
it was it was more of a raw kind of sound or whatever. I love that solo album.
I do too.
I think that's probably my favorite solo album that David Gilmour ever made,
Hmm.
and was the original, the David Gilmour. That was it.
Hmm.
I liked every song off that record,
Yeah.
and and then when you talked about Rick Wright, I loved his album in '78 that he released. So both of those albums were uh, very good albums, albums that I listen to probably more than I do any of the newer stuff, especially like David Gilmour's well, I'll say his final album, his last album he released was way different than anything he'd ever released. But to me, the David Gilmour album was, it was almost like, as you said a while ago, is talking about, Close to the Edge Junior,
Hmm.
before we started recording. That's how I kind of felt about David Gilmour's first solo album. It was sort of Pink Floyd light, but it
Right.
was so good.
Diet Pink Floyd.
Yes,
Hmm.
but it was so good, and you can hear a little bit of that Floyd influence on Rick Wright's Wet Dream album as well.
Hmm. And you can hear that's why I'm always fascinated about solo records. You can hear what each member brought to the band, and you
That's
can
it.
hear what's missing when they don't play as a band. Where I understand completely what you're saying about the David Gilmour. To me, the Gilmour record musically, chef's kiss. Music is amazing, but you kind of miss Roger's edgy themes and edgy vocals and edgy, very insightful lyrics.
Yes, you do. And
Right.
and I think with Roger, not to get off chasing a rabbit here, but that's what I miss with Roger's solo albums is it doesn't have that. It seems like it's a lot of whispering and talking, and it gets loud and quiet, and it has elements of The Wall, but it just doesn't have that soul, that David Gilmour and Rick Wright bring to that, when they're working together.
True, true. I couldn't agree more. You get that he's whispering in your ear, and then all of a sudden he's screaming from
Yeah.
behind with the Roger Waters solo records. It's all over the place, and I like the drama of it, but to your point, I miss the guitar playing and the keyboards and I miss the melodic sense that David brings to the band.
Yeah. They
Um,
work so well together that
yeah.
apart, it's just like you said, you can hear something's missing, you know. But when they're
Mhm.
together, it's just like magic.
Yeah. Yep. So to get back to the wall, so basically there was a lot of this going on during Animals, as we know. There
Right.
was definitely some headbutting especially between Gilmore and Waters during the making of Animals. And to, I guess, play referee, Roger hired Bob Ezrin, as a producer to sort of get in the middle of everything and make these calls on things so that they
Yes.
wouldn't be screaming at each other the whole time. I mean, they still ended up arguing a lot, but Bob ended up being sort of the referee in the middle. Um, and Bob was also very impressed with Roger's songs. He loved the concept of the wall. And he got really into it and really like, wow, this is such a cool concept. I love this. This is great. And then the whole idea of him starting this from a show in Montreal, I think it was, where he spat at a fan.
It was Montreal, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Montreal
Montreal,
77, I think.
70, yeah, the In the Flesh tour from 77. And I guess a fan was getting crazy in the front row and
Yeah.
running up and yelling and screaming money and I want money.
If
And
you listen to that bootleg, you can hear Roger's getting more and more agitated because there's fans who are shooting fireworks off.
yes,
And he
yes.
starts speaking about that. And then apparently it was that same show that someone started climbing up the netting, I guess, where the stage was. And he said, I lost it. And I just spat on him. And he
Hmm.
said, he started to see that rock stars at that time they were like dictators or fascists. They could just do whatever they wanted.
Hmm.
The people just worshiped them.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's where the wall, the idea, for the wall came from.
Yeah, I wish I could just build a wall between myself and the audience.
Yeah, that's
I think is what his quote was, and people said, "Wow, that's fascinating, really." And he also said something to the effect of, "We could have anybody up here playing, and they wouldn't care. We could have dummies up here playing,
yeah,
and nobody
very
would
good.
care." They're just not, nobody's focused in on what's happening. They're just there to have a good time.
That's it. Yeah,
And he didn't like that about the stadium shows because he couldn't control the audience very well. And back in the day with Pink Floyd, as we know, there used to be this very reverent, quiet, like the quiet parts, everyone would get really quiet.
yeah.
And all of a sudden at a stadium show, people aren't being quiet.
It's funny when you spoke of that. It brought me back to the bootleg of The Man and the Journey back in
Yeah,
'69,
yes.
and that everyone's just very quiet, and they're singing and they're playing, and then after it's over with, like it's so funny because it's not a lot of hooping and hollering. It's just everybody doing this.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Yes. And
So I think
yeah.
he missed that sort of intimacy with the audience.
Yeah. And he kept saying, "Oh, all of this is just about money. We're just cramming as many people as we can to get into a stadium and make a dumb ton of money. It's nothing to do with art." Or so he was starting to complain a lot, and he was the one that didn't like touring. I mean, he goes on record and says he doesn't like touring very much.
Yeah.
And so I just don't think he was enjoying the whole experience. And I think during the In the Flesh tour, he also had something went wrong with him, and he had to get injected to get on stage.
Mhm.
And that's inspired Comfortably Numb.
Comfortably numb. Yeah.
Yeah. They said, "Oh, we can give you a muscle relaxer so you can play the show."
Hmm.
Um,
Like
you
how
know,
he incorporated parts of himself and parts of Sid Barrett for the wall. So
yes,
Pink is
yes.
actually Roger and Sid put together, sort of.
So that's great. Let's get into that. So that's the next thing. So I love how they make this character Pink, and you
Mhm.
really don't. To your point, you're not sure who it is. Is it Roger? Is it Sid? Is it this composite of all these different people that he knew? Or it seems like it's Roger one minute, and then to your point, all of a sudden you're like, oh, that sounds like it's Sid.
Right.
So you
Yeah.
think it's a composite of both?
I think it is. And I think, there's probably a little bit of elaboration going on there too. But I know that he took certain stories that I'd read or heard of what Sid Barrett went through or what he did. And then, of course, Rogers speaking biographically as well.
Hmm.
So I do think it's a sort of a combination of Roger and Sid together. But Sid's real name was Roger. So two Rogers.
Yeah, interesting. That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So yeah, and they were good friends, and I think there was this constant. They kept going back to writing about him and referencing him. I think that Roger had this guilt about kicking him out of the band.
Definitely.
I don't think he ever got over that.
Yeah, I don't think
You
he
know.
did. Well, I mean, to see your friend just deteriorate like that,
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
you can't. you cannot continue doing what you're doing with someone in that sort of shape, that
Yeah.
sort of state
Yeah.
of mind. But at the same time, you still care about that person, you know. So
Right. Right. Yeah. And because they couldn't continue with him because he was doing things, he would just stop playing on stage and just stand there and stare at the audience. And you can't,
yeah,
this is a front man. He's doing that.
yeah,
So yeah, they couldn't continue with him.
yeah.
But then they felt bad about sort of, I guess, what's the word I would use? Abandoning him, I guess.
Abandoning it, that's the
Yeah.
perfect word because that's exactly
Yeah.
what happened. You know,
Yeah.
they just sort of one day, I think the story goes, they had a gig and they were traveling, and one of them said, "Shall we go pick up Sid?" And the other guys are like, "Let's not." And that was it.
That was it. That was it. That was the last time they played with him.
Hmm.
Or yeah. So
Luckily, they had Gilmore by that time, so
yeah, and they only played as a five piece for a month.
yeah, isn't
Didn't
that
last
strange?
long. Yeah. So so yeah, so let's get back to the wall. So essentially there's this song cycle about this character Pink.
Mhm.
And I find this album fascinating. There's something about this record that's very fascinating to me. I think it's because Roger is bearing his soul so much. And we talked about this a little bit before we hit record that this album feels a bit like he's very good at capsulizing the human experience.
Oh, definitely. Yeah,
Would you say that?
I would say definitely. It's sort of like Roger is, for all his faults, he's sort of like the musical version of Albert Camus or Jean-Paul Sartre or somebody like that. He's so well versed, the way that he can express himself, you know, with words
Hmm.
about the. I think Roger is probably one of the top five um, lyricists of all time, rock lyricists of all time. I
Yeah.
would say
Yeah. Yeah. And
he's just so poetic the way he describes things.
I love Nobody Home.
Oh, that's a wonderful song.
I
And
love the
and
lyrics, you know.
many times you can relate to certain tracks on the wall. You know,
Hmm.
Comfortably Numb, Nobody's Home, One of My Turns. Um, I think one that I relate to, Mother. I relate to, gosh, I'm trying to think of even the instrumental. The Is there anybody
Anybody
near
out
me or
there?
anybody out
Yeah.
there? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Is there
There's
anybody
something
out
about
there? Yeah, it's kind of spooky that song. I always used to kind of spook me a little bit.
it.
You
Yeah.
know, it's
Hey, you. There's another one.
Hey You. Oh God, I love Hey You.
Yeah.
I love Hey You. So let's go through the story a little bit just for the heck of it, just for fun.
Yep.
So it starts out with this, you're at a concert. All of a sudden this concert kicks in
Yeah.
and it's like, "Hey, so you thought you might like to go to the show." And this has got to be a flashback to the In the Flesh tour because it's called In the Flesh.
Yeah. Yeah. It came from the Animals tour, which they called In the Flesh. And so then the first song and one of the last songs on the wall, In the Flesh, and In the Flesh Part Two, or whatever it's called.
Hmm.
But yeah, the description of of that song and the way he describes a concert, it's just beautiful. I love it. But a lot of that song also got him in trouble, for some of the slang he used during that time. But he was just trying to get across that, this is, we could say rock stars can just get away with anything, say anything, and people just love it anyway. It doesn't matter. So
Right, right.
In the Flesh was sort of an abuse of the audience. And if you listen to the live version, you'll hear him say stuff like right before, I think it's Run Like Hell, you'll hear him say, "Are there any paranoids in the audience tonight?" And people are going nuts, you
Yeah.
know. Yeah, and then he's like, "Are there any weak people?" And they're like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, I'm weak."
No, it's a complete parody of that, where
Yeah,
even if the performer's making fun of them, they're cheering.
yeah, That's it.
Yeah, and
I
he
think that
kind of
sums
taught,
up in the flesh for sure. I mean, he breaks it down that yeah, we can insult you and spit on you, and you'll still come and listen to our music.
you'll still pay money to come see me.
Yeah,
And there's something wrong with that. I think that's his
yeah,
thought process. Like something's wrong with this. The fact that you would come to a concert and be excited about being uncomfortable and packed together, and
yeah,
he talked about that. And like you said, on those bootlegs, you can hear him getting more really agitated with people when they're, he's trying to do Pigs on the Wing and they're setting off fireworks.
fireworks.
Yeah, and he's like, God damn it, stop letting
Yeah,
off fireworks.
yeah, that's
Um,
it.
yeah, so I think he was just getting more and more annoyed with audiences, and this is a song about that, how he got so annoyed with the stadium shows.
Right. Yeah,
Um, so then it hits onto the Thin Ice, which all of a sudden, after this big, this big rock song, which by the way, I love the Gilmore guitar on In the Flesh. That bow there, there. I mean, that is just so awesome.
yeah, it was great for
Oh,
sure.
he's just rocking out. I love the tone. Oh, so great. And then that dut, 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 and then all of a sudden a baby's crying,
Yeah, yeah, this
and
is into thin ice.
it goes right into Thin Ice, which is kind of like again going backwards even further into his life.
Yeah, I think thin ice too, and people don't think about this. I think sometimes is thin ice is a very progressive song because it's almost like switches. It's one song that sounds like two songs smashed together or something.
Hmm.
'Cause, I think he starts out with the mama loves her baby, daddy loves you too, and then it goes into this other part where if you should go skating on the thin ice.
Yes, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It,
So it's like almost two songs, but it's one song called The Thin Ice.
I never thought about that. You're right. There's two
Yeah.
distinct parts to that song.
Yeah, very Beatles-esque because that's how I feel about in what is it, A Day in the Life. It
Hmm.
sounds like two or three songs just kind of smashed together. And so the Thin Ice always sort of reminded me of that.
But I love the Thin Ice because again, I can relate. It's everyone can relate to this, where it's like mama loves your baby, daddy loves you too. You think you're really secure and safe in your family home, and then all of a sudden, when you start going out, he says something about the modern life. When you start going out into the world, the
Yeah.
ice can get thin, and all of a sudden you fall through.
Yeah, that's it.
You're not safe. You thought you were safe, and you're not.
Yeah.
Um,
And like you said, we can relate to that. I could relate to that.
yeah,
Growing up and I was very safe and secure, and then suddenly you are sort of as Jim Morrison would say, into this world we're thrown, like
right,
a dog without
right.
a bone. So it's sort of like that's we're tossed into this element, and I learned it immediately. When I went to kindergarten the first time, and it's like I actually met kids that didn't like me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
What? How can this be?
yeah. What? What?
Yeah. So
What do you mean you don't like me?
yeah. And so then I think from that point on, and we learned early on that life is thin ice.
Hmm.
It really is. And you can fall through it anytime. You just got to learn how to climb back out.
And what a great lyric. If you should go skating on the thin ice of modern life. I love that. Again, that's
Yeah.
just a great lyric. So good. And and you'll see that a crack appears under your feet. I just love all that. It's so
Yeah.
great. And then it goes into another brick in the wall part one, which is his thoughts, his memories about school and some of the mean teachers that he would have. And
Oh,
he
yeah.
said that not every teacher was like this, but he said there were those bad apple teachers who would humiliate you in front of everybody.
Oh, yeah. Well, two things about that song. I went to, and I guess this would be part two as well, another brick in the wall part two as well. But I actually visited, I think it's on Hills Road in Cambridge. The, the the very school that he wrote that song about.
Oh, really?
I went to that school, and my wife, she's taking pictures, and I was like, "This is the school he was talking about," on the
Wow.
wall.
So cool.
And but I related to that because I did growing up in the South. We still got paddlings, when I was a
Right.
kid. Still
Yeah.
got, yeah.
Right.
So there were teachers that would absolutely abuse their right,
Sure.
and I had one teacher that if she thought you were guilty of something, you would get a paddling, you
Yeah.
know, and it's
Yeah.
like there were times that I didn't really do it,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I got it anyways, and so I related to that. But you're talking about part one with Daddy's Flown Across the Ocean.
Right.
My did not go into the war or anything like that, but he worked so much to provide for our family that he was absent from, certain moments and stuff.
Hmm.
So I could kind of relate to that as well.
Oh, you're absolutely right. I'm sorry. I'm skipping ahead to part two. This is part one where you're right.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Daddy's flown across the ocean, leaving just a memory.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So, but it kind of has that Gilmore thing going on, that echoey ding, ding, ding,
yes. I
ding.
love that.
And it's again, this is what Gilmore's bringing to this record, and it's interesting because we're talking a lot about Roger now, but Gilmore is all over this record. His
Oh,
fingerprints are all over it.
yes. And he sets, to me, Gilmore sets the atmosphere. He
Hmm.
sets the mood of it. Because like you were just talking about with it, the sort of feed, the echo, dun 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 dun, that kind
Yes.
of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, they're just something that just when you listen to it, even without words, you just
Mhm.
get this certain
You get that
feel.
feeling. Yeah. Yeah. And then just the way
Yeah.
it's sung, the daddy's flown,
Yeah.
it's got that menacing feel that there's a lot of menacing song, like feeling songs on this record.
Yeah, that's true.
You feel like something like a foreboding's coming,
Yeah,
Um,
apprehensive. Yeah.
yeah. And then we goes into the happiest days of our lives, and then it kind of segues into part two.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So,
Part two, and like I said, we were talking about it a while ago with the teachers and the school, and if you grew up
mhm,
in I would say if you were a boomer or if you were Gen X and maybe
mhm.
even early millennial, you kind of can relate to that.
Oh, absolutely. Teachers had a lot more power over, they could do what they wanted to if that the classroom was their domain.
Oh yeah, we used to have a
You
teacher
know.
that I remember in the sixth grade, and we loved him. He was a great guy, and he was
Hmm.
funny, just hilarious. But if he got angry, you may get an eraser upside the head.
Yeah,
And he
yeah.
would turn around and throw them.
Like look out, you'll get hit. You'll get
Yeah.
hit.
And
Yeah.
nowadays, he would be hauled off to jail for that. But
I know that's what we joke around about with the Gen X, we're
yeah,
a completely different beast from the
yeah,
current.
yeah. We practically had to raise ourselves.
We got beat up.
Yeah.
I remember teachers hip checking kids into lockers.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Oh
if kids
yeah.
were out of line, they would check them into the locker. It happened. I saw it.
Yeah. There was a shop teacher that we had in high school, and I saw him push a student up against the wall,
Hmm.
and this number, and
Yeah.
nobody would say anything because when that boy got home, if he told his parents, well, he would get a whipping too.
Right. And
Like, you
sometimes,
get a
let's be
pattern.
honest, sometimes it was deserved.
It
Sometimes it was
was.
the kid was out of line and they would
Yeah.
just say you're out of line and they would make
Yeah.
sure the kid understood you're never doing that again.
Yeah.
But sometimes to your point and to Roger's point, it would go too far and maybe they would abuse that power a little bit.
Yeah.
Um,
Definitely.
you know,
Definitely.
so
I do think that there needs to be more discipline today in school, but yeah, I think that can be, you can't allow somebody to have too much power.
no, 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 absolutely not. And I do think there's should be checks and balances in that regard. However,
Definitely.
we're moving on to Mother. So I always wondered I was like, why is Mother? I don't understand this. Like, so he's just talking about his overprotective mother, essentially.
Yes, but to me, it's like I could also relate to that because when I was growing up, my dad worked a lot, so he was gone a lot. Well, my
Hmm.
mother was in charge, and she did sort of over protect me,
Hmm.
you know,
Right,
but at the same time, don't cross her, that
right,
kind of deal.
right, right.
So it was like she was tough, but she was very nurturing and sometimes to the point that it was, as he described, like a smothering type thing.
Almost too much. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but I think it's because I was an only child.
Right.
And she's
Right.
like, oh, you know how mothers, it's sort of like they don't want to lose the only thing they have, so
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
that's what happened with Roger's, you know,
And sometimes
situation.
they want to hold on to you, like they don't want you to grow up.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was lucky, I think. My parents were very good with that, but I did relate to that song, in
Hmm.
certain parts of that song, especially like, my mother was very skeptical of anybody that I dated,
Right. Mama's
sort
gonna
of.
check out our girlfriends for you. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Mama won't let anyone dirty get through.
Yeah. That's
Um,
it.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, and I love this is a great example of Waters and Gilmore exchanging vocals.
Right.
I
Yeah.
love that. They do a lot of that on this record where they go back and forth with the vocals. I love
Oh, I
that.
love
It's
it.
so great.
It's a perfect combination for sure.
Yeah, yeah,
And I miss that, when they would sing, Roger would sing a part and Dave would sing a part, and
yeah, yeah.
it meshed well to me. So
When they work together, it was magic. That's
it
yeah.
was
So,
for sure.
um, and I love speaking of Gilmore. Here we go. Goodbye Blue Sky. Oof, the
Oh
vocals
my
on this
goodness.
fantastic.
I remember the first time I ever heard that song, and I had to, of course, I had a cassette tape, so I had to rewind it, but I just rewind it back to that song and just listen to it again and then do it again and do it again. It was just like I
Right,
became obsessed with that. And as a child, like you were talking about Gen X, growing up, we were still in the Cold War.
right,
So
right.
as a child, became obsessed with the Cold War.
Hmm.
Um, Probably from the movie The Day After in 1983, the nuclear war movie that came on ABC, TV movie. But I became obsessed with the Cold War. And so when I heard that song, the falling bombs and all that stuff, it's just like, I don't know, it was very haunting. It's almost like a beautiful, haunting song, about war.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. And
So,
I love that how it starts with the tweeting birds, and you hear this little, "Hey, mommy, there's an
yeah.
airplane up in the sky."
And
And
that was his son, I believe.
was it?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
I
I
believe.
love that. That is such a great way to start the song because it's such this innocent. They have the beautiful sunny day, and a little boy says, "Oh, look, there's an airplane." And
Mhm.
little does he know that airplane's there to bomb.
Yeah, I
Um,
know. Oh,
it's
let me add this. I'll try to be very quick. My wife grew up in Cambridge, England.
hmm
So when I went back to Cambridge, I visited all the Pink Floyd places. Well, her father was a small boy in World War II. And so when the Germans were bombing London, and he lived in a place called Potter's Bar, and that's where Pink Floyd did the album cover for Adam Hart Mother.
right.
But his house was one of the houses that were bombed during that time.
Oh,
And so when I listen to that song now, I can imagine that's him, my daughter's father as a little boy saying,
yeah.
"Look, Mom, there's an airplane up in the sky."
Ah,
Yeah.
just gets you.
Yeah.
It's
It's like a personal thing. So yeah.
it's right on the money. Just it's so affecting when you really delve into this record and that you just and I love the acoustic guitar and the vocals, the harmonies, they sound like CSN almost.
Yes. Oh yes. I love it. It's
It's
beautiful. It's a beautiful song.
beautiful track. And then suddenly we're into this sort of ominous thing again with empty spaces. And how do we fill the empty space? And this is another part where I can really relate to this, where it's you feel like things are missing in your life, and what do you do to fill the empty spaces?
Yeah.
Um, and what shall we do now? I mean, that wasn't on the album, but it was going to be on the album, and it kind of I
Right.
think it was on the movie, right? It's on the movie
It was on the
soundtrack.
movie. Yeah.
And he talks about buying guitars and buying cars, fancy cars, and buying a fancy house, and how you hear this all the time that when you become successful, it doesn't always fulfill you. And I think that's what he's
Right.
talking about here.
Yeah, and I think that could be applied universally too, because we all have these voids. Say someone dies, or there's a breakup, or a friend moves away, or something like that. There's these voids that we have in life, these empty spaces, and we fill them with materialism. We
Yes,
fill
yes.
them with these types of things, and so that was a very relatable track as well, to me, and especially after a breakup or when I went through a divorce, and all this, and you're sitting there. I remember sitting in my living room in the dark, just
Hmm.
staring at the wall, like what's going on, so
Yeah.
the track is very heavy and very deep and personal too for me, for
Oh,
sure.
absolutely. And you and many other people, anyone who's gone through, because this is where it goes into, as you're saying, this whole young lust is where he picks up a groupie and on the road, and I'm horny or whatever, so I'm picking up a
Yeah,
groupie and I'm bringing her back to the hotel, to maybe this is filling an empty space. I'm bored and I'm lonely, so I'm going to fill the space with a groupie.
that's it. Yeah.
Right. But it's not fulfilling.
No,
Um,
no,
you
it's
know.
not gonna fill that void that you think you're filling a void, but you're really not filling a void. You're basically, it's a temporary thing. So
So Young Lust though is another great Gilmore moment. I know I'm talking a lot about Gilmore, but I just love that guitar
yeah,
riff. I mean, that's
yeah,
a classic Gilmore riff.
yeah, it
Um,
is, and you hear that one a lot on the radio. So
and he's a great vocal too. He does that really gruff vocal that I'm just a new boy. He's
he's
really
such a
like giving it.
versatile vocalist.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
can he can sing so soft and beautiful, I guess. And then you've got that rock sound. He can pull that off too, like within the Nile song on More. I mean,
Yes, that's exactly another example. Or like Raise My Rent on the solo record or whatever.
hmm
That kind of stuff. Um, But so how great is that phone call at the end of the song though? I mean, I love the phone
Yeah,
call at the end where he keeps the man answering, he keeps hanging
yeah.
up.
Yeah. It's
It's
funny,
so
when I
great.
first heard that, I was over in England, um, and their telephone, when you call over in England, it does exactly what it does on the album.
Yes. Yes. Right. It
And
just
every
sounds,
time I
yeah.
would call from there, or my wife would call her mother, and it would do that. And then her mother would pick up. Before she would pick up, I'd be like, "There's a man answering the phone."
This is the United States calling. Are we reaching?
Yeah, yeah,
This is was it Mr. Floyd to Mrs. Floyd from,
yeah,
will you accept the call?
yeah,
It's just so good. I just love how the operator picks up on what's going on because they were trying to trick her. They were doing that on
yeah,
purpose to try to get somebody
yeah,
fired up. It's a man answering. It's a man answering. So I just find it interesting though that didn't he just wasn't he just with a groupie and then he's calling his wife and she's cheating on him too?
right, yeah,
Is that kind of what's going
yeah,
on? I mean, that's always what
yeah.
I thought,
That's what it sounded like to me.
you know. So he's
So,
upset about that, but yet he's kind of, he's doing yes. Anyway,
but yeah, he's doing the same thing. Yeah,
right. So one of my turns is when he wrecks the hotel room and he kind of goes on a rampage and wrecks the hotel, and that apparently that was also based on things they had seen other bands doing, like John
yeah,
Bonham and Led Zeppelin and stuff, were just trashing
yeah.
rooms and things like that. Yeah. So
I think that was more based on other bands. I don't think Pink Floyd did that much, if at all.
right. Right. No, I don't think they did it at all. I think they were pretty mellow English, like, prim and proper English guys.
Right.
You know. So, but yeah, and then when it does the whole, the first and kind of the end of the first half, right, where he says goodbye, cruel world, I'm leaving you today, goodbye, and apparently in the concert, and I wish I had seen this show. Oh my God, it would have been great. But apparently that was the last brick would go, and he'd say goodbye, and the last brick would go in.
Yes. Yes, that's
And
correct.
yeah, and I just think that's so cool. What a great theatrical moment that is.
Yeah. It was
Um,
perfect. It was perfect for that, for to end side one.
Yes, yes, exactly. It's like for the first half of it, the first, and again, this was a double album, which was, pretty ambitious to do a studio double. But they had the power, like we were saying, they were a huge band by this point. They had the power to do that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So we're on to album two now, and you put on it, Hey You comes on, which is just a highlight of the record.
Oh, I love that
Oh
song.
God,
I
so
love that
good.
song, and I don't think it gets enough love
No, no.
because it's melancholy, but it has such an inspirational message, really.
Yeah. Well, I love the idea that, he's now bricked in. He's now isolated himself completely from everybody and everything. And
Yeah,
now I love the idea of, hey, I hear people out there. What are you doing? Is there anyone out there? And it's kind of showing that now that he's bricked in, that's dangerous too, because now he's completely isolated,
right.
you
Yeah,
know? So is there anybody out there? And then Nobody Home we talked about a little bit. I mean, that's just such a great, like, it's almost like at this point he's kind of bricked in and he's just kind of, you hear a lot of TV at this point in the album. A lot, like he's just sitting there watching TV by
yeah,
himself, you know?
yeah. Little black book with me poems in. That's so cool. I love that.
So good. And I love the echo vocal but here comes Sid though. He says something about my shoes are put together. What is he? Something about his shoes
What is that? I'm trying to think.
with like
Nicotine stains on my fingers. Silver.
Nicotine's, yes. Um, something swollen hand blues, and
Yes, swollen hand
and
blues.
I'm like you said, nicotine stains. I think these are pictures of Sid when Sid was kind of falling apart.
Yeah, and you know what I heard? I don't know that this is the case, but there's a lyric in that song that says, "Got a grand piano to prop up my mortal remains." Somebody said he wrote that about Rick Wright.
Yes, yes, I heard that as well. That was good. That was a dig at Rick.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, because those two were obviously not getting along during the making of this at all.
Well, he was just saying, that Rick was just kind of like a crash test dummy or something, just propped up with his piano or whatever.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
Rick was going through a lot at that time for sure.
Yeah, Rick was going through a divorce and he wanted production credit on the record apparently and would sit in the control room and just sit there just to
Yeah,
make a point. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to get production credit. And so yeah, it just became a he and Roger just started butting heads like crazy.
yeah, yeah.
So
That's pretty.
and Roger was like, "Get out of here. You're not going to get production credit. Get out of the studio, get out of the control room."
What are you
Uh
doing?
yeah, it wasn't
Dad,
good. It
I'm
wasn't good.
walking.
So anyway, so this is the part where I get a little bit, maybe you can help me. This is the part where I get a little bit lost with Vera and Bring the Boys Back Home. I mean, is this him sort of having flashbacks or something? Or because
I never did know that. I know Vera was talking about Vera Lynn, who used to sing the song, "We'll Meet Again, Don't Know Where, Don't Know When."
oh
You
yeah,
know,
okay,
this
okay.
lady that would sing during the
During the
wartime.
war, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're back
And
to the
then Bring the
wartime
Boys
thing
Back
again.
Home, I guess, was sort of a wishful, you know, thinking because his dad died in the war, bring the boys back home. But
Right.
something about that, I just never felt like that where it is placed in the album. I just thought, why is that even there?
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way about this is where you start hearing some tracks that seemed a little bit weaker to me. This is
Like
where,
filler tracks.
yeah. You start feeling like, they're kind of running out of material a little bit here.
Yeah.
Because Vera and Bring the Boys Back Home, I always felt like, okay, those are okay, they're all right. But then, of course, Comfortably Numb kicks in, and you just have this epic track that we all know.
I remember the
Um,
first time I heard that, I was riding in a car with my cousin, and he had introduced me to Pink Floyd. And then when that song came on, I was just, immersed in it, and especially the guitar solos, the two guitar solos, and for a long time that was like my favorite song. I wanted to hear that song all the time. Now they play it all the time on the radio, you hear it all the time anyways, but it was just forever that would, if you would have asked me what's your favorite song, forever it would have been that song.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I've heard it so much, but it's still, I mean, I will still listen to it if it came on the radio right now, I'd be listening to it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, that's
But it
something
is
that
my favorite song off this whole album
yeah,
for
I mean,
sure.
the guitar solo is absolutely incredible. I mean, there's no, especially the solo, just unreal. Probably maybe David Gilmour's best moment ever.
Oh yeah,
Um,
and like you said a while ago, you got Rogers singing the verses, you got Gilmore singing the bridge and the chorus.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's perfect to me.
It's a great song. It's a great song, but to your point, I have this. We talk about this a lot on this channel. Does it count if you're just tired of the song? I mean, it's still a great, great, great song,
Yeah.
but you just heard it so much that you kind of go, oh, I don't really listen. I don't need to hear it comfortably numb again.
How I judge that basically is what if I could never hear this song again,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
you know?
yeah,
So that's how
yeah.
I look at it. So yeah, Comfortably Numb is definitely my favorite song off this album. And I guess a lot of that has to do with nostalgia, but it also has to do with I think that song is the perfect combination of Roger and David.
Yes, agreed, agreed. Great. The magic happened with those two on on that track, no doubt. So he's pushed back on stage. Show must go on. He's pushed back on stage. He really doesn't. You almost have this feeling that he doesn't want to go back on stage, but he does, and he's kind of in a
Right.
bad mood and angry. And so then they reprise In the Flesh again, and this time he's angry, like you had mentioned, and he starts really screaming at the audience and yelling at them, and it almost turns into this sort of like rally, almost like this, I don't know, like a Nazi rally or something,
Some
you
sort of
know.
not fascist type thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and going back to the war again, right? So this is what his father was fighting against,
Right.
and ended up dying because of it.
Hmm.
So it's all these circles that keep going around and around, and the same with the same themes happening on this record.
I think The Show Must Go On and In the Flesh are those are probably the two songs that I don't really relate to at all.
Yeah, yeah,
You know,
yeah,
so
yeah.
it's just sort of like, oh, okay.
Well, and then Run Like Hell is another, I mean, that's another Gilmore, like, oh, like I love the guitar on Run Like Hell. Oh my God. So
It,
good.
it it is. It's I don't even know how to describe it. It's I love the intro to it, especially. If you
Oh
ever heard it
yes.
live,
Yes.
yeah, where they're
Yeah.
just doing that, and then it goes in that
Yes.
dun 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 dun. Yeah,
Yeah, they really live. I've seen live clips on YouTube, and they really, like you said, they what's the word I'm looking for? They just extend it. They extend the
they
beginning of it.
and
Yeah.
I think when I went to see Roger live, I think that's the song. During that song is where the pig flew over our heads.
Oh, was it? Okay. Okay.
So yeah,
There's the
definitely
pig.
that.
There it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it was so close. Like we were sitting there, and I mean, it was just like you could almost reach out and touch it. It was so
Oh,
close.
that's so cool.
It was, and I
That's
just felt
great.
like, gosh, could you imagine being like back in 1977 or 80 or whatever it was when they used the pig? Can you
Mhm.
imagine being back then, how exciting it would have been.
Yeah.
It was exciting to me when I saw it recently.
Yeah. I can't imagine that the people that saw the wall shows, they must have been so incredible.
Yeah, for sure.
Because really he did imagine this. We didn't say this yet. He really imagined this from the beginning as an album, a show, and a movie.
Right. Yep.
It was a multimedia thing that he had in his head.
Yeah. Yep.
So
And I love the movie as
yeah,
well.
yeah. I mean, I got
There
the
it is.
got the movie.
Yeah.
Um, And yeah, I'll show everything at the end. I got all my physical media here, but yeah, so then okay, so we can wrap this up. So essentially this is sort of the last quarter of the record. And again, this is kind of where I feel like things get a little bit off the track, a little bit, just in my opinion. Where Waiting for the Worms is pretty cool, but it kind of, I do like the idea of it where the waiting and the where he's got the bullhorn.
Oh yeah, I love that.
That is kind of
And
cool.
it's so funny because during that song he mentions all these places like Brixton Town Hall, you know. And so
Oh, I've never noticed that.
when we're over in London, I'm telling her, let's go see if we can find this place. Let's go see if we can find this place. So
Hmm.
it's really cool to see that. Every time I would go by like train tracks over there, I would always think of that for some reason that song in
Waiting
particular.
waiting for the worms. So
Yeah.
so the essentially the worms are another thing is the worms from what I understand is he's so isolated that he's almost starting to rot. Is that kind of the vibe and the worms
Yeah.
are coming because he's so isolated?
The worms ate into his brain.
Yeah, yeah. So it's like so that's another interesting concept. And then so then he says, "Stop! I want to get off. Stop everything. I want to stop. I want to, that's enough of this." And then it does the trial, which is interesting. I mean, that's a whole like very theatrical sort of song,
Oh, there's
kind of
nothing
crazy.
like that. There's nothing like that. It's a
Yeah,
rock opera, but I mean, there's plenty of rock operas, but
right.
there's nothing like that one. And to me, it's like, good morning, the worm, your honor. It's just so strange,
It is so weird. I always knew he was no good.
Yeah.
Bring
And
in the
then,
wife.
and then it comes back into that, dun, 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 where the judge comes in and he's like, gosh, what was it? It just slips my mind. And he's like, evidence before the court is incontrovertible.
Gives me the urge to defecate.
Yeah. Oh, it was such great theater for
It
sure.
is. It is very good. It's very high camp theater, and it's very cool. And again, it's very unique, and very cool. And it's very cool. So, and that's really kind of interesting because then it's the whole. What I just love the idea that he gets sentenced to take down the. So everyone's tear down the wall. That's the
Yeah.
sentence. He's got to tear down the wall, and I guess in ultimately kind of going for like a happy ending of sorts that's good for him to tear down the wall, and now he's back in regular life again. I don't know.
Yeah. And then you go into the final little track with where they're saying, gosh, you I'm completely lost of the lyrics of that one, but it's the very final song where he talks
Outside the
about
wall. Yeah.
outside the
Right.
wall,
Yeah. Yeah.
talking about the ones you love and all this stuff.
Yes. Yes. And it's almost like, he said something about trying to climb up some mad bugger's wall or whatever,
Yeah,
something like that. So in other words, kind of giving himself a little bit of grief, like saying, okay, maybe some of this is me, you
yeah,
know.
yeah. It's very reflective for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's a lot of the one thing about this record, and I think it got some grief for this in some of the reviews when it came out. They said, "Man, this album is like really, like, man, this guy's got like a massive ego, and he's everybody else caused his problems. He has nothing to do with it, and you know what I
Right.
mean. There's a little bit of that going on in some of the record. You're like, geez, this guy was, is he perfect? You know?
Yeah, exactly. No, it is funny though because that last song kind of sums up life in general. A lot of the problems that we face in life are our own
Mm.
decisions, our own creations that
Yeah,
what we've sown, so to speak. It comes back in different ways.
yeah,
So that
yeah.
was sort of a message there, at the very end of it for sure.
Yeah, but I think it's a great record. I think it's a classic for a reason, and I think for a double record especially. I mean, yeah, it's got a little bit, and a lot of people say that it kind of fades at the end a little bit, but I think, and it kind of does a little bit, but I still think it's pretty high quality most of
Oh
the way
yeah,
through.
definitely.
You know?
It started out as my favorite Pink Floyd record. I'd say now it's probably my third or fourth, but it's still it means a lot to me because it was my first.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's like the first love. You can't. It's just never gonna. It's always gonna be special.
Oh, it will
You
definitely.
know, yeah. And it came out in '79 and it was a huge hit. I mean, it had a hit single on it. Um, Another Brick in the Wall. It was a hit. It was all over the radio. I remember that. I remember hearing it on the radio.
Yeah, it
You
lasted
know,
really. The wall lasted from 79 and then into 80 and then 81. And then I think the movie came out in 82.
right, right,
And
right,
then the final cut comes out in 83. And that's sort of like extra bricks, you
right,
know.
right.
So
Yeah.
that album almost lasted 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I mean, and again, I think it really was started from the very get-go of this is going to be an album show and a movie. So they
Right.
knew it was going to like they were going to dig in and it's going to be this big thing. And it was. And what's interesting is I saw another YouTuber do it was interesting he did a three-part series on this and he did the album he did each separately. He did the album on one episode, then he did the concert on the second episode, and then the third one he did the film and
Right.
he was saying which one was the most successful, and I think he
Yeah.
ended up saying the album was the most successful.
Yeah. I would agree.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So, but I do love the concert though, and again, this could be a whole nother video. We could talk about the concert, but I do love because I watched some of it and I'm like, man, I wish I would have seen this show. I love how clever it is that at the beginning, and it's on YouTube, you can see little clips of it because I think they did film one of the concerts. They were thinking about putting some of the stuff concert into the movie, but they didn't.
Right.
And I think some of this footage is from that, and it's kind of rough, but you can see it. And what's great is that this guy comes out and he's like, "Hey everybody, hey, welcome to the show." Da, 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 da. It's like it's almost like this guy from like a radio station or something. And he's like, "Hey, so glad everyone can make it." And this, and then like all of a sudden, mid speech, he gets cut off, and the band just starts right in,
Yeah.
and it's the surrogate band. It's not Pink Floyd.
Right. Yeah.
It's the guys with the masks on. It's so
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. That is so
I
cool.
love that. Oh my God, I love the beginning of that show. It's great. Yeah. So, but yeah, there it is. I mean, you got the album. I got this. There's the physical media. This is my original album that I bought a long time ago. You can see I wrote The Wall on it. Pink Floyd. I was made my own little cover. So I can't. I got to keep this, even though it's in bad
Yeah.
shape. It's just so sentimental.
I
And
love it.
then you got the CD, right? You got the CD version that they put out with like they actually put out. You probably own this. They have the work in progress stuff where you hear the
Yeah.
Roger demos. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
Yep. I've
that's
got
kind of
all of
cool. And the Roger demos, by the way, are very like basic.
Oh, they are.
They are like rough sketches. So it just goes to show you what the band brought to the to this. Um, then you got, is there anybody out there? The live,
I love that.
this is
Yeah.
good. This is really good. I really enjoy this. And then then you got the movie, right? So you got a lot of different Wall. If you like the Wall, there's lots of different
There's a
products
lot
you
of
can pick up.
material you can get. Yeah,
Absolutely.
for
So,
sure.
so yeah, so that's your. I would say that's. I think we covered it. I mean, any final thoughts on the Wall for you?
I just feel like that is probably my favorite concept album of all time,
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah, yeah,
And probably my favorite Pink Floyd album is Animals, but The Wall is my favorite concept album as far as a narrative is concerned.
yeah. It's really an impressive piece of work.
It really is. Yeah.
I mean, think about how much time and effort went into this album.
Yeah.
Pretty incredible,
Yeah.
and how many people worked on it. And it's really, when I listen back to it, every time I listen to it, I crank it up and I say, "Wow,
Yeah.
that's an
Yeah.
impressive piece of work."
It is. It is. It is. It is very. It's a legendary album, truly.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. Well, what do you guys think? You've been with us this long. You must be a Pink Floyd fan. Let us know in the comments. I will read all the comments. What do you guys think of Pink Floyd's The Wall? Where does it stand in their discography for you? Do you think it works all the way through? That's another question. Um, what do you think about the Roger Waters, Gilmore? What do you think about I just love the magic that they still had in this. This might be the last glimpse of magic that they kind of had. The final cut is like kind of there and kind of not.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
for sure.
this feels like the final like magic that we
I
got.
think it was the last Pink Floyd album with, yeah.
Yeah.
I
So,
enjoy the other album, but this is definitely probably the last Pink Floyd album.
um, well, I think we hit pretty much everything with The Wall. I don't know what else there is to say. I mean, it's a classic piece of work from one of our favorite bands, and that's
It
why we ended
is.
up talking for almost an hour about it.
Yeah, and I think too with The Wall is, it's not underrated, and
Mhm.
I don't think it's overrated. I think that it's perfectly rated. But at the same time, I think that there's just so much about it that they play. When you think of Pink Floyd, most people who are not very uh, grounded fans in Pink Floyd, someone who might not know what Ummagumma is, they're going to know what the Wall is. They're going to
Yeah,
know something about
yeah,
the Wall.
yeah,
So
yeah. When you pull it up on Apple Music, the first album that says Essential is The Wall.
that's it.
So there
That's
you
it.
go. There you go.
But yeah,
It's an essential part of the Pink Floyd catalog, no question. Unfortunately, it's also kind of sad because it was the last with the
yeah,
kind of full band.
yeah. With the full band, that's what I meant when I said the last Pink Floyd album. I do count Momentary Lapse and Division Bell and the Final Cut as Pink Floyd albums because that's what they are. But
Sure, sure.
I think I think that was the last one with the full classic lineup.
Those four, the four of those guys, that was the classic. That was the
Yeah,
classic lineup for sure.
yeah. And what a way to go out, really.
Yeah, I mean, a great way to end that run. I mean, that run from, I mean, Dark Side, Wish You Were Here, Animals on the Wall. That's incredible.
It's
Incredible.
amazing, really. And I think Animal that doesn't get enough credit. I think
No.
that's, I would say that the Wall, somebody's going to put Metal up there, and I agree with them.
Mhm.
But I think the Mount Rushmore is what you just said. Dark Side, Wish You Were Here, Animals, and the Wall.
Yeah, yeah, incredible. And I'm with you. I love Echoes. I mean, I think Echoes is oh my God. In Metal is a great record. I do love Metal.
Yeah, it
Um,
is.
but um, but yeah, anyway, I think that's a good place to stop. So if you're with us this long, we really appreciate you. You must be a big Pink Floyd fan.
Yeah, they must love us, Tom.
Man, you must be really loving us. So no, I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. And please like and subscribe. It really helps the channel. I mean, if you like what you see, please hit subscribe. It just helps me to grow the channel. So I appreciate it. Trannon, thank you so much for coming back, man.
Hey, thank you for inviting me. I really enjoyed it. Anytime, I'm ready.
Beautiful, man. So much fun. Really enjoyed this conversation. It was great. And that's it. So we'll see you next time on Curless Mania. Take care, everybody. See you.